Hey everybody, Mike Chipperini at Chipper's Island Adventures, and in today's video I'm going to take care of the water that leaks through the cowl on the windshield on my Ram Promaster 3500. So hey everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to take care of this cowl leak, and I'm going to point it out to you right now. And what it is this cowl, which is right here under the windshield, it wraps around the windshield, is prone to leakage. Now this isn't a problem strictly limited to my Ram Promaster. This is something that's across the board with pretty much all Ram Promasters. Call it what you will, poor design, whatever it may be. But I'm going to point out a couple things real quick so that you can see what I'm talking about. First off, let's get rid of these windshield wipers. We're going to lift those up like so. Now, one of the things, when you look at this, you can see that it's coming apart a little bit. There's a couple places. There's one down here. You can see this one right here. There's a little gap. You can see how it goes up against it. Now, there is drainage on this, and what the water is supposed to do is go over this cowl and come down to these little drain holes. And I'm not sure if you can see that, but there's one in here in the end of each windshield, or excuse me, in the end of each side of the windshield, and there's one in here, and it's hidden by, this one here is hidden by the windshield wiper, but there's a big one in the middle, and you can see it right there. So there's a small hole here on this end. There's a small hole on this end, and then there's a bigger hole right here just to the right of the windshield wiper. Now you probably don't even notice these things. Now one of the things you want to do all the time is make sure these holes are clear of debris. But with all that said and done, let me go ahead and show you what I'm going to use for tools. So here we see the tools. Now this is the drain that I'm going to mount underneath the cowl, and then this is a tube of adhesive. These are the screws I'm going to use to mount the tray. I'm going to use these clippers to trim the hose if I need to. The tape, that'll come in handy when I seal the cowl itself with this sealant. And this hose, I was going to use that hose, but it's not as pliable as this fuel line hose, and I found that to be a lot better. These cowls have a seal right here. This is the windshield wiper. Here's the drain, and you can see the hose for the drain right here. And in the middle of the cowl is a seam, which is prone to leak down upon this and then onto the engine. You can see there's a little water right here, look. See that? Little water there. That's not good, and there's some water over here. So my goal today is to put the tray on here along with sealing the entire cowl. Now the lines for the drain tubes on the either right or left side of the windshield, they're kind of buried inside, but they're there. And you do want to make sure those are draining properly. Before I get started mounting the tray, I have a tube on it, so I'm going to mount the tray and you'll see what I mean. And then what I'm going to do is zip tie the tube to the existing cowl tube right here. And I'm just going to follow that right down to where that drops water down below. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so this tray is going to mount just like this. And the water will come down here and drain into the hose. Now here's the thing with this tray. This is a 3D printout, And you can get these 3D printouts on either the Ram Promaster YouTube site or Facebook site. I think it's the Facebook site. Or the Travato Owners and Wannabes Facebook site. Or just do a search for Promaster, Ram Promaster Cowl tray. There are numerous downloads for this to be 3D printed. I got lucky 3D printing mine because I have a friend who has a 3D printer, and he went ahead and 3D printed this for me. Now, one of the problems I found when I 3D printed is this middle hole was not there. And I need that hole because this, I could pull this out, but it really doesn't matter. This goes all the way through the plate, and it's like a point on the other side. So I made just enough size hole to accommodate the point on the other side. Now, I have seen, if you're wondering where you can get a 3D printer, check your local library. I have seen people talk about getting them done there. You might be able to get it done at a Staples or something like that, but ask around. But I got lucky, like I said, and I was able to get this printed. Now, this tubing is a 3/8 inside diameter, 3/8 ID fuel hose. And I find it's pretty pliable, much more pliable than the one that had that clear one that I showed earlier. The problem with this is I think this is a 1/2 inch diameter. So when I connected it to this, it was a little tight. You can see where it bends out. So it might even be better to have a 1/2 inch diameter. But what I did is I heated up the hose, stretched it out, and I did get it on there. So let's go ahead and mount it. What I'm going to do is I have a nut and bolt with 2 washers and a rubber washer. So I'll show you how I'm going to do this. I'm going to use the rubber washer on top, just as more of a seal. So this should go right through here, like so. I'm going to put a rubber washer on, like so. I'm going to put another washer on, like so. And these are locking nuts. So I'm just going to put this first one on. Get it in there as far as it will go. And then I'm going to do the other one. Put on the rubber washer with another washer, and go ahead and put on the locking nut. Now I got to tighten those down. Okay, one thing, I was going to use these little wrenches here, but I can't get them really in the back. So I got a set of ratchets, and just by put one on the back, one on the front. All right, so I have this in pretty snug now, and what I'm doing is I'm taking this hose and bringing it over to the cowl tube, where I'm going to go ahead and zip tie it to that. Now when you tighten these nuts up on these, don't over tighten. Get them nice and snug, but be careful because you could break this plastic. So that's why I use washers on the back and front. The rubber washers I'm using is kind of a gasket to keep water from leaking there. But you know, it's all going in the tray, so it really shouldn't matter. But so now I'm going to get in here, and this is a bit of a little thing here. Okay, so phase 1 is done. You can see the tray is on, the hose comes down, and what it does, if you can see this in here, it follows. This is the cowl tube, so it follows it right down underneath. And I actually went to the end. I got underneath the car. I went ahead and zip tied it to the end of the cowl tube. So that should finish phase 1. Now I'm going to go to phase 2, and I'm really hoping this helps. You know, I think everybody has a problem with this. I don't like seeing water anywhere near my engine, let alone on it. So hopefully this helps. Phase 2, I'm going to go ahead and put a sealant inside the cowl all along the bottom of the windshield. I looked high and low, I did a lot of research, and this looks like a pretty good product. It's called Black. That's actually the color. Super Weather Strip Adhesive. And supposedly this is done pretty good, and it says exceptional bond strength, firmly bonds gaskets and seals. So I'm hoping that this will do a really nice job. I haven't even opened up the package yet, so let's see what we got. And by the way, I got this at a local auto parts store called the AutoZone. That's who carried it, but you can get it anywhere. I think hardware stores carry it. And let's see what kind of, oh, we got an opening like that. Okay. Okay, so this is what we have here right now. And as you can see, it made a little bit of a mess. And I got this block of wood holding the cowl down with tape. And then I put this bottle here with the windshield wiper over it because it held the cowl down. The weight of it was holding the cowl down. So that was yesterday I did that. So this is dried out for about 24 hours. So now what I'm going to do is clean this up a little bit. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to pull off this tape and everything, get the bottle out of the way, and then I'm going to carefully scrape the window, and I'll show you the scraper I'm going to use here in a moment. Okay, so one tool I have is this razor blade, and as you can see, it's a razor blade mounted in with plastic edges. And what you use this for is when you paint your windows in the house, you can overlap the glass and then scrape the paint off after, and this edge will ride right up against the wood, so you're not cutting into the wood with the razor blade. And then I have this razor blade, which I'm going to use if I need to trim along the cowl very carefully. So I'm going to go ahead and just to see how we do here. And you can see how it's cleaning it up pretty good. And it's going to take a little bit to clean this mess up, all right? And then what I can do, using this razor blade very carefully, if I go right along the cowl, I can start cleaning up the pieces pretty well. Look at that. Like I said, this is going to take a little bit. Just take your time. The whole goal here is to get this excess off and get it looking pretty good. All right, so I got it all cleaned up, and I think that seam is looking pretty good. Not too shabby. There's a little bit. I'll clean it up even more. But right now, I think that's looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull the van up, and I have a hose over here. I'm going to open up the hood and let the water run on the windshield and see if I get any leaking inside. If I do, then I'm going to have to let it dry out and go ahead and seal in the areas where it's leaking through. But I can't imagine this is going to leak after what I've done. And if it does in the middle and goes on that tray and down that tube, perfect. That's all great. But let's go ahead and we'll pull up and see what we got. All right, so I pulled the van up, cleaned up all the extra adhesive that was on there. And as you can see, we have the tray right here in place with the drain hose. So now I'm going to go ahead and very carefully water the windshield and see what happens here. Right here. Oh. What's that? Come over here. So the nice thing is the tray works perfectly. Right now I'm getting a little leaking over here and over here. But that may be the nature of the beast over here. I'm not sure. Let's see. All right, so after a little trial and error, what I have right now is one leak right in here. And I figured it out by taking the water and going down. At the ends, it's just getting in a little bit, but I'm not worried about that end so much. But this is a leak area right here. So what I'm going to do is let it all dry out again, and then I'm going to put more adhesive in there and do everything that I just did. And you know, some of this is trial and error. You got to go ahead, do the adhesive, then reapply if needed, because it's very difficult getting it in on this. But now that I know where it needs to go, I can go ahead and do it. And that area, so now that I know where it needs to go, I can go ahead and do it. And what I'll do is do it like I did over here, where I had a block of wood holding it down to the window and the adhesive. And I think that'll work. The nice thing is that cowl tray is working perfectly, so that's a lot of water that is no longer an issue. All I have to do now is worry about the ends. And I don't think this end is really leaking. I think it's a screw up here, and I'm going to check that out. But first thing I want to do is square away that bit. So as you saw, not all videos are 100% successful, but I know where the problems are, or problem really, and I'll go ahead and address that, apply a little bit more adhesive, and then I'll go ahead, clean it up, and do the same thing I did today and test it, and I should be good to go. I will say that tray is a big improvement because it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. If you like this video, feel free to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel. All the best to all, and happy hobbies.